In this video, we are going to be taking a look at fats. Fats are something that I get asked about a lot from students. There's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to fat, and hopefully I can address some of those misconceptions in this particular video. Something that I hear from students a lot is that fats are bad for me and I should eliminate them from my diet. Please do not eliminate fat from your diet. Fat is important to a healthy diet. We need fat in our body for certain body processes. For instance, fat helps us to feel full. It helps us satiety. It takes longer for us to break down fats. Fats are also helpful when it comes to energy. Carbohydrates are our number one energy source. However, sometimes we don't have enough carbohydrates available. So when that happens, our body undergoes a process known as ketosis, where it breaks down fat for energy. It's also helpful for the maintenance and functioning of cell membranes. It helps to regulate body temperature, and it also helps with the transmission of messages from cell to cell. Fats also serve as a means of protection and insulation for our body organs. It aids in the absorption of vitamins A, D, E, and K. So without fat, we wouldn't be able to utilize those vitamins. And then finally, it helps to increase the bioavailability, there we go, of certain foods. So for instance, if we cook with oils, then we can increase the likelihood that those nutrients, such as phytochemicals is an example, that those phytochemicals will actually be used by the body. So as you can see, that plays a variety of roles for our body. These are the fats that you should try to incorporate within your diet. These are monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. These both serve to lower LDL cholesterol in our bodies. LDL cholesterol is correlated to cardiovascular disease. It forms the plaques that form in our blood vessels, which can eventually lead to blood clots, which then can lead to heart attacks, stroke, etc. Monounsaturated fats are also beneficial because they increase HDL cholesterol. HDL cholesterol is extremely useful because it's able to bind onto the LDL cholesterol, take it along through the digestive tract, and then we're able to eliminate it from our bodies, the LDL cholesterol. So HDL cholesterol is extremely important for keeping our blood vessels free from LDL cholesterol. Polyunsaturated fat, they are also vital for cell development and brain functioning. That's why there's an association between omega-3 fatty acids and with brain health. As we can see here, the sources for mono and polyunsaturated fat, that these primarily come from plant-based sources. We can see here though for polyunsaturated fat that fatty fish is a good source for omega-3. Eggs contain omega-6. But for the most part, these are going to come from plant-based sources. Now, there is some truth behind what students ask, that fats are bad for me and I should eliminate them. But we want to make sure we're eliminating or limiting certain types of fats and making sure that we're eating other types of fat. So the ones that we want to limit are saturated fats and trans fats. These both raise LDL cholesterol, which again can contribute to plaque formation in our blood vessels. As we see here, again, there's various sources when it comes to saturated fat and trans fat. Saturated fat primarily comes from animal-based sources, so animal proteins and dairy, and trans fats primarily from processed sources. We'll see towards the end of this presentation, coconut oil is listed as a saturated fat, so we'll talk about that one a little bit more. Okay, next one. I don't have to worry about fat if I eliminate meat from my diet. This is also false. As I just showed, trans fats are common in processed foods. Trans fats, they were created in the early 1900s as a cheap alternative to things like butter. So by hydrogenating oil, we were able to create this new substance that acted like butter, but was less expensive. However, we started to observe that trans fat is associated with heart disease. So that's why we encourage people to limit the amount of trans fat in their diets. Trans fats, I already mentioned this, they're primarily going to be found in processed foods, so things such as baked goods, fried food, snack foods. That's why it's important to be able to read food labels, because we can see and understand where trans fats can be found in our foods, and sometimes it might be surprising to you. All right, next one. It is good to always choose low-fat products. This one might be surprising for some of you, but I actually wouldn't recommend always choosing low-fat products, and here's why. Food manufacturers, they obviously want their products to taste good, and so fat helps food to taste good. So by eliminating or limiting the amount of fat, that product's not going to taste as good anymore. So how do we compensate for that? By adding sugar and salt. This isn't always the case, but again, it's important to be able to understand how to read food labels so that when you go to the store and compare products, you can see where this might be the case. And because of that, you might want to choose something else. This can also be said for products that are sugar-free or low sugar as well. You'll probably see that they're higher in fat and higher in sodium as well. All right, and then the last one. I should use more coconut oil in my cooking as opposed to other oils. Again, this is going to be false. Coconut oil, as mentioned earlier, it has saturated fat, and the research that's been done, it's inconclusive. Also, with some of the research, they were basing it off of MCT oil, or medium chain triglyceride oil. However, they didn't actually use coconut oil. They just said, well, because there were positive effects with MCT oil, that means that there's also going to be these positive effects with coconut oil. I think there needs to be a little bit more research when it comes to coconut oil. They are seeing that there are some health benefits from it, but I would encourage olive oil is something that has been tested as a good alternative for oil. Canola oil is okay too. Coconut oil, I'd say, if you want to, sure, use it, but probably don't use it for all of your cooking. Just use it for some of it. All right, that is all that I have for you today as far as fat. If there's any other questions that you think of when it comes to fat, feel free to send me an email so that I can modify this presentation in order to incorporate those questions within this particular presentation.